I am now on the place where you can get personalised videos from all of your favourite celebrities, content creators and podcasters like me. If there is someone you want a personalised message for, a personalised shout out, a birthday message or just something funny, search for Darren Rees Football for Kids on the Cameo app now.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
At Great Wolf Lodge, there's adventure for the whole family. You and your pack can splash away in the indoor water park where it's always 84 degrees. There's a wave pool, a lazy river, and a bunch of massive water slides, including ones your family can all enjoy together. They even have adventure-packed attractions, from the Northern Lights arcade to delicious dining, and you can't miss the nightly family dance parties. With 23 lodges across the country, you're always only a short drive away from adventure. So bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com, greatwolf.com, and strengthen the pack.
Did you know 1 in 2 women wear the wrong foundation? Matching foundation is hard, but Il Maquillage makes it easy. Take the Power Match quiz to find a perfect match in seconds, customized to your unique skin tone, undertone, and coverage needs. With 600,000 5-star reviews, Woke Up Like This is our best-selling foundation for a reason. Available in 50 shades of weightless natural coverage. And with Try Before You Buy, you can try your full size at home for 14 days. Just pay shipping. Take the quiz at ilmaquillage.com/quiz. That's ILMAKIAGE.com/quiz.
This triple-parter on Kylian Mbappé took me about 30 hours to make in total, and it was initially just released on Patreon and on Apple Podcast subscription about 4 months ago. There are a lot of hours which go into making this podcast, and it's people who support the show on Patreon and on Apple who enable me to have the time to keep on making it. There are loads of exclusive episodes on both Patreon and on Apple. And to gain access to all that stuff and ad-free listening and loads of other stuff, it costs less than a cup of coffee a month. So adults, if you are able to, please consider supporting the show on one of those places. You can cancel it whenever you want to. To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode 1 of 3, we're going to be talking about the extraordinary Frenchman, Kylian Mbappé. Now, you might well be thinking, Darren, you've already done an episode on Mbappé. It was one of the first episodes you ever made. Have you lost your memory? Yes, you're right. Not that I've lost my memory, but I have done an episode on Kylian Mbappé before. And that is the reason I'm remaking this one. When I first started making Football for Kids, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just writing stuff I thought would be interesting and hoped that you lot would enjoy it. Anyway, it turned out that you did. And nowadays, I write stuff I think you'll find interesting, but I also know what I'm doing. So I wanted to make the Kylian Mbappé episode from scratch and make it as good as I possibly can, because he is the sort of player that deserves it. And also, that was over 2 years ago that I made that episode, so a lot's happened between now and, well, then. Kylian Mbappé was born on the 20th of December 1998. Mbappé was born in Paris, and the way that Paris is laid out, it's a bit like a massive jigsaw puzzle, and each part of the puzzle in Paris is called an arrondissement. Mbappé was born in the 19th arrondissement, and it's said that those in France, in Paris, take these areas very seriously, and they are proud of which part of the puzzle they come from. Mbappé grew up in a place called Bondy. Bondy is a place which had lots of green areas for playing and practicing football, and is only a few miles out of the city of Paris. A good place to grow up for a young aspiring person like Mbappé, who had big dreams. Kylian Mbappé was born in a big footballing year in France, a time that those who were around in 1998 will never forget. The most significant year in France's history as a footballing nation, because it was the year that they both hosted the World Cup and they won the World Cup. Pretty much every street, in every town, in every city had people dancing and cheering on that night, as their country had won the biggest prize in sport for the first time, and the children who were born at this time, in this year, were known as the football babies. Mbappé, well, of course he was one of them. Kylian grew up in a small flat in Paris, but it was a flat that had a difference, and without doubt would have had an influence on his love for the sport. Out of his flat, he could look over a football ground. He could quite literally watch every game from his home. When Kylian was younger, he was a kid who was known for having a lot of energy. Energy that had him bouncing off the walls, and energy that most certainly needed releasing somewhere. One of his releases was, of course, football, a sport which he adapted to very quickly. It was said that when Kylian Mbappé was a youngster, his day-to-day life worked in a rotating pattern. He woke up, he went to school, he got home, he played football, he went to sleep, he woke up, he went to school, he got home, and well, he played football. And he just repeated this over and over and over again. This was a routine that Kylian loved, and it helped him to become the player everyone would eventually talk about. When Mbappé joined the first team and he was playing in games, he was so clearly so much better than everyone else he was both playing with and against. He would run rings around all the other kids. He would do Maradona turns with his eyes closed, and then he would score goals which would impress some of the best strikers in the world, never mind parents of 10-year-olds. He was on another level, and nobody was anywhere near him. Mbappé was a right little character when he was younger, and he knew what he wanted. That didn't matter if it was on the football pitch or if it was off a football pitch. There's a great story about Kylian Mbappé going into a barber's in Paris when he was younger. He was inspired by the French player and the Real Madrid legend Zinedine Zidane, who we've done an episode on. Kylian went into the barber's, sat in the chair and said, "I want the Zinedine Zidane haircut, please." The barber said, "Sorry, what do you mean?" He said, "Nice and short, and then I want the bald patch like Zinedine Zidane." The barber said, "Sorry, I just can't give you a bald patch. You're a kid." Mbappé was adamant. He wanted hair exactly like Zinedine Zidane, and this included that very famous bald patch which he had on the top of his head. He must have been the only kid in the world, and maybe the only person in the world, to ask a barber to give them a bald patch. I guess this showed how inspired he was, and how much he wanted to be like the heroes who he was watching on the television. Mbappé's dad was one of the coaches at AS Bondy, the team that Kylian played for. His mum was a professional handball player, so Mbappé was surrounded by sporty people who were passionate, enthusiastic, and knew what it meant to win and to be good at something. It's reported that Kylian Mbappe's parents had a genuine feeling that Kylian had something special. There was something different about him. He wasn't like any other kid, in a good way. In France, the people who look after the sport of football created a very special house which was dedicated to the top young players in the country. Those that had the talent, the desire, the ability and everything else to make it all the way to play for their country. This was a house where talented French kids would live, breathe and sleep football. Every day, they would be working with the best coaches the country had to offer, in the best facilities, and they would be treated like professional footballers. Kylian was one of the very few to get an opportunity. It was here that his speed really started to become a thing. He was always fast as a kid, but the training and the dedication and the investment he got there really made him come on. He became super fast, and none of the kids his age could really keep up with him. Mbappé wasn't only in the best place possible for football, but he was also surrounded by some of the best talent in the country. And there's a saying in life that success breeds success, which basically means that if you surround yourself with good and successful people, then you too will become a good and successful person, whatever it is you're trying to do. This is a situation that Kylian Mbappé found himself in. The difference with Mbappé playing for AS Bandy and him playing here with all the other great young players is that he quickly became not the very best person on the pitch, as everyone around him had been hand-picked by some of the best people in football. Not only did these kids have masses of ability, but they also had lots of guts and determination too. They were away from their families at a young age, in an unfamiliar surrounding, with no home comforts. They wanted to make it in football so much that this is what they were willing to do. Kylian Mbappé, by the end of the second year at the House of Football, was really starting to become so very impressive. Like, he was blowing people away with his speed, skill, agility, power, aggression, vision. He was phenomenal. His mum and dad were also very wise people who wanted the absolute best for him. They had become his agents in some sort of way. There were scouts all over the country on his mum and dad's case. And then there was a scout who in France was known for being one of the best and spotting the best. He watched Mbappé and said he was completely and utterly blown away by his talent. He called a club and said, "I genuinely think I found a future Ballon d'Or winner here. He's still very young, but he's probably the best young player I've ever seen." There were some nice offers coming in from all over Europe. Even Arsene Wenger tried to get him to join Arsenal's academy, but his parents were not interested in moving him away from France. That was never part of the plan. The team that Mbappé would end up going to was Monaco. Monaco were a team who had a quality training academy, and a club where there were some already very good players. One of those players was, of course, Bernardo Silva, who said in Mbappe's first ever training session, "Who on earth is this teenager? He's unbelievable." And the other senior players were then asking Bernardo Silva, "Who on earth is this teenager? He is unbelievable." Mbappé was so good that he was quickly becoming a first choice for Monaco. He was a regular face in the first team starting 11 and was doing wonderful things as a teenager in major competitions. In his Champions League debut, Monaco would play Manchester City in the last 16 of the competition. Mbappé terrified and, quite frankly, destroyed the City defence at times with his speed and his agility. He was sensational, and of course, he got himself on the score sheet too. When Mbappé was with Monaco, Monaco won the league with 1 game spare. This was not an easy thing to do, as PSG for years had dominated French football, especially at this time. Once they won the league, all the players were partying and celebrating, drinking beer and wine and having an almighty time. Not Mbappé though. He went home and had a good night's sleep. He was asked why he didn't stay to celebrate with his teammates, and he said that he wanted to make sure he was in a good place. He was fit and healthy, as there was still one last game of the season. It didn't matter if they'd already won the league. He wanted to perform out of his skin, like he always did, and he knew he needed to make the right choice to be able to do that. Kylian was super dedicated to his craft, which is yet another reason why he is the man that he has become today. Real Madrid knew all about Mbappé, and when he was 18 years old, they had offered Monaco somewhere around 145 million euros for him. 145 million euros for an 18-year-old player. The club agreed, but Mbappé and his family were fuming. They said that they would decide whether he would be moving out of the country, not them. now was not a time for Mbappé to move to Real. In the end, a club in his home country, in his home city, were prepared to make the financial investment to get him there. And that, of course, was when he joined the world-famous PSG. And I think that's probably the perfect place to leave episode 1 of this very special Patreon and Apple Podcast subscription 3-part episode. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.